this Versace just absolutely throws down on the bottom. So this, utilizing the entirety of the plant, the entirety of the canopy, is how you're gonna activate that increased canopy depth. And then again, that's the multiplier for your square footage to get cubic canopy. So canopy depth multiplied by your square foot is your cubic canopy, and that's the real number to pay attention to when you're looking at activating more yield with your under-canopy lights. What's up, guys? Welcome to Grow Room Weekly. This is Tim and John today. We're gonna be talking canopy depth and how that canopy depth can improve your yield overall in the space you are already working with. At the end, John is gonna take a crazy question about far red and if it increases water movement through the plants. I don't know how to answer it, so I'm letting him do it. But that's what we got. Stay tuned for the whole episode for that.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
So room 4, day 22. This is a really, really healthy looking day 22. Room full of blue Zushi. We have 5 different trials going in here, and I'll let John talk about that in a second. But we're talking canopy depth today, right? And the idea around canopy depth is, you know, how much active canopy are you utilizing from top to bottom? And it's a larger variable in this idea around cubic canopy. You know, we all know the square footage of our rooms pretty much off the top. Like, that is kind of a cultivator just knowledge base that we have. But your cubic canopy is your square footage multiplied by your canopy depth. Your canopy depth being the biggest lever for you to increase that yield, and under canopy being the biggest driver of that increase in canopy depth. But the taller your plants are, the deeper that canopy depth, the more ability, or the higher the chance you can increase your yield. And so when you've got rooms like this is our room that's meant to mimic double tier growing, right? We gave ourselves 5 feet from tray to light. Growing within that box is super hard, so activating as much as possible on that plant is the key to maintaining good yields. And so this room is a great representation because this is about the distance that I prefer to have between, you know, light and plant. We know a lot of people that can slam them closer. We don't love doing that. I like to have good airflow across the canopy in between the light and the plant. I think it just helps manage hot spots and maintain quality in these double tier like rooms. We like to see a maximum of about 4.5 feet of canopy depth. When you are talking like a single tier room and you've got all that space, we like 4.5 feet of canopy. We like to see that height just because it makes for a uniform product. Color uniformity stays the same top to bottom, and then you have like really good maturity of trichomes and cannabinoids all the way through the plant as well. So that 4 to 4.5 feet is my sweet spot. So from the tray to probably the top bud here, we're just a little over 4 feet. If you take out the pots, let me just.
How many centimeters?
Oh my God.
We have a large European audience.
We do have a large European audience. Okay, John, you are correct. Damn it, God. 1.1 meter, probably? How's that? Does that suffice? Can we do 1.1 meter? So yeah, we're talking canopy depth in feet because obviously we're here in the US, but this right here on this double tier setup, this canopy depth from the top of the pot to the top of the bud is about 1.1 meters. So why don't you take over and talk about the trials we have going on. This is my favorite room, also my least favorite. Table was in this room.
Yeah, but this time, I mean,
it looks good. It looks good.
The differences between the tables
are
visually identical to the last time we ran it.
Yeah.
The difference is that this time they all moved in a bit larger, a bit more veg, and the vigor overall
much better.
Is much better, but that's uniform across all of them.
I agree.
So, despite the fact that table 1 does not have any under canopies at all, I think it looks pretty darn.
It looks good.
Now, how does it look compared to the others? Like trash. But compared to last time was like,
run,
This time, a much more robust plant from the beginning, but as you can see, it is still, you know.
It's still behind comparatively.
Commercial viability perspective is minimal.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, yeah, the contrasting differences are huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, no under canopies, table 1, and really the only viable component of it is, in talking about canopy depth, really this top third is viable.
Yeah.
Everything else is not.
Agreed.
And likely to, continue to not be at the point of harvest.
I would agree, yeah.
Under canopy present, no far red at all.
Yep.
Under canopy, far red, 5 minutes, end of day.
So this is our typical baseline here. The under canopy is on, and then 5 minutes end of day from the chroma fixture. So this is the middle table is our baseline.
Yep. In this one, everything kind of compares back to this table, which is with under canopies, but without far red. And this is kind of like these two are the most critical because this is what can be run with the different fixture options.
Agreed.
So obviously many different recipes if you're using the chromas, but generally
the far red is the biggest differentiator.
Is the big differentiator.
Yes.
Here we have under canopy. This had 5 minutes end of day.
Yes.
Up until day 18, essentially.
Okay.
Then it switched over to include full photoperiod far red with expanded par or EPAR set to match the treatments without the far red. Wattage is being recorded so we understand, okay, what is the cost per watts, things like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like micromoles per watt. But generally in the canopy matching the EPAR, the expanded photosynthetic active radiation. So that's the most important to me. And
I'm so happy you're here, John.
And
so it's not the wattage, it's the actual output that we're measuring.
Yes, because the efficacy of a fixture will change your output too. Like these are actually very good fixtures in terms of your efficacy.
Yeah.
But when depending on what fixture you're using, top lights, bottom lights, the micromoles per joule.
Okay.
Joule being a watt per second.
I know what a joule is.
Okay.
He just assumes I don't know now.
Anyways, this has 5 minutes end of day, but it's had photoperiod far red with the matched EPAR since day one.
Looks like uniform, it's hard, I guess it is hard to say, but this table does look a lot taller across every single plant.
A lot taller, it is taller, but for the inclusion of that much far red for that long of time, it's actually nowhere near as tall as I would have expected it to be, I think.
But yeah, that's what we have going on for trials in here. Again, really rough. We're going to be wrapping up these trials in a different series that we may be working on in the background. But yeah, that's room 4, guys. Day 22. Let's go to room 3. All right, guys. So room 3, day 29 is our hybrid matrix room. You walk into this room and it is just terps off the jump. It's so nice. It's like that, you get that HPS nose off the rip as soon as you walk into the room, which is really, really nice. And if you've been growing with HPS long enough, you know what I'm talking about. So Canopy Depth, this is our Velcro. This is our SFVOG, very, very stretchy genetic. So when it comes to Canopy Depth, we're talking this genetic because this half of the bench got topped and this half did not. And it should be easy to see on camera that those are just gigantic tops. These are much more uniform buds throughout the plant, but we really like this nose. We like this genetic, so we're gonna keep trying to perfect it. But what we're seeing is, again, more uniform product through the one that is topped and better canopy management, because that's half the battle when you're talking about the cubic canopy. So however you get there on canopy management doesn't really matter. We don't top anything in the facility but this one because it's so lanky. We just like to not top. It's just our style. But again, we've got a taller canopy over here, but it may not lead to more weight because the uniformity of the bud and the proximity of the top bud to the top of the lights, it's going to be too close. So anyway, when we're talking about maximizing your canopy depth, take it with a grain of salt. Genetics are dependent, definitely, and I think this Velcro, this SFVOG, is the closest thing to like a representation of that. What are you seeing on your measurements on uniformity of light?
Obviously, we've got much taller central leaders here on the untopped, whereas we have a far more uniform top canopy on the topped. What that's really done is allowed those lower primary branches to put more energy in them elongating out.
Yeah.
I don't know at this point whether that has any impact on the number of buds per primary branch site, if there's a difference there. What is definitely noticeable is that this plant being more squat, right, has a higher, what seems to be a higher leaf surface ratio area to like bud sites.
Okay.
And so I can visibly see larger buds in this section relative to over here.
I agree with that.
The top buds obviously are larger because they have so much, they're so much closer to the energy source, and their leaves are collecting a lot more light.
Yeah.
But when I go in and I'm trying to measure where that like balance point is, it seems to be that we have roughly the same balance point, right? Because this really isn't conflicting too much with the rest of the light penetrating.
It's not really getting in the way, you're right.
It's not really getting in the way.
Okay.
But this area has so much more development in that inner zone that the overall light penetration is actually lower here than it is here.
Interesting.
So, but it's collecting more of that energy, right? And you can visibly see that going into the bud sites. So
got it.
I think that's going to be when we start filtering through the sizing data.
Yeah.
So we'll have counts and weights on all the different size categories. We'll have a better understanding of what that relationship was between canopy, cubic canopy, canopy size, and actual translation to buds.
Which is what matters, because like you can have a bunch of yield, but if half of it is in smalls, then
yeah,
we know that that doesn't really do well when it comes to selling. So
I mean, and you can just even looking and down through at the untopped versus the topped, you can see a lot further into this untopped section because just the number of, those secondary branches coming off the lower primaries did not develop nearly as much here as they have there.
Because of the top, right?
Yep, so then it'll be like, all right, what's the LTB to STB ratio? So your large trim bud, your A's and your B's, relative to your C's. And that ratio or that relationship is going to be, I think, very different between these two.
I think it's going to be a stark difference for sure. Yeah. And again, this is genetic dependent, guys. Top or untop doesn't really matter, to each their own. But when it comes to genetics, that's really where that difference does matter. So yeah, again, this is the perfect one because she stretches like crazy. Last thing, check in on the Lance, doing really, really well. This is a hog of a plant, beautiful. And then I want to check in on the frog poison.
Smells really good.
It smells really good. Like, I don't think this is the Detroit Runts. I don't think this is the fakie going around. I would not know. I did see frog poison at the Olympics this weekend, and I was like, okay, that's unique. Is it like life-changing? No. It is a really pretty plant. We've got some good trike development going on. And yeah, dude, it does have a unique nose. And I'm like, I'm down for uniqueness. Like when a market saturated with one or two things, it's a unique nose. I
smoked, not our Lance, but I smoked Lance for the first time at the Olympics.
Oh, nice.
And
from High Tech?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good.
Yeah. Not bad.
Not my personal favorite, but pretty good. And the terps were very similar.
John likes Snickle Fritz.
Huh? Snickle Fritz.
Room 2, day 49. This is the biggest plants of Blue Zoo we've ever grown. So again, in the theme of canopy depth, we can hope that every little piece here, all of this is gonna be usable flower, and we can get a much bigger yield off Blue Zoo. She is already a poor yielder, but she's such a good smoke and just so loved by the community around here that it's well worth the squeeze. And then we've got Versace, which is sitting at about 45 inches at total canopy depth, so actually below the 4-foot threshold that we've been talking about. And then we've got, in talking about canopy depth, we've got the Velcro untopped. This is the last run of like purely untopped Velcro, and you can just see this is just not sustainable. While you've got a bigger canopy depth here because of how tall everything is, it's not really gonna translate to like that much more volume and yield as we spoke about just kind of like the room 3. So same genetic that we just spoke about in room 3. We've got the half bench of top versus untopped. And then we've got Chanel. We love her so much. This is actually one of the biggest Chanels I've seen. So sitting just below Versace, probably at like 43 inches, just closer to the 1.1 on the meters. So again, canopy depth here. This is a really good example. So as you can see, this Versace just absolutely throws down on the bottom. So this, utilizing the entirety of the plant, the entirety of the canopy, is how you're gonna activate that increased canopy depth And then again, that's the multiplier for your square footage to get cubic canopy. So canopy depth multiplied by your square foot is your cubic canopy, and that's the real number to pay attention to when you're looking at activating more yield with your under-canopy lights. So pay attention to that. What trial do we have going on in here?
Parallel perpendicular.
This is the last run of the parallel perpendicular.
Yep.
Thank God. Sorry.
Build a foundation.
I know. John's doing his work.
Last contrast to room 1. So the data is all coming in on room 1 right now.
Yep.
This will come in, and then we'll do a collective report on the 2 runs of it, and then comparing the top. It's not a big groundbreaking study. It's more like, what do we establish?
Right.
Our own practices here and our, general recommendations, and providing a little bit more insight and guidance to those who may want to do something other than parallel runs.
I agree.
So
and it may not be groundbreaking for us, but I think it's groundbreaking for people in the community running our lights. That,
it's
really
a
have that
practical
question. Yeah,
a practical applied.
I agreed.
Do this now. Either switch to your current process, or you're going to build out. How do you want to build out from the beginning? And 100%. It just is
100%.
Answer some questions.
Yeah, and this is like what John said. This is a building our facility baseline, so that when we do more trials, we can use this as the start point. Just like we use 5 minutes far red end of day as our baseline for far red. So same thing. But in here, we're going to harvest later this week, and we've turned on the far red diodes on the chromas for the final 10 days, I want to say. Yeah, so this was just for ripening. So we didn't mess with this. We've got other trials that we already went through, like room 4, where we're using it from the start of day 1, and then turning it on maybe day 18. This turned on about 10 days ago. So we're just seeing its effect on the ripening process. That's but shroom's terpy, dude. I do think it's a little smaller yield-wise, but who knows?
This room is terpy. It's not as terpy as before. The ambient air environment is nowhere near, but what is very impressive is just coming in, smelling the actual buds. So what I like about that is I'm confident that, hey, we're holding on to those volatile compounds more effectively in this run than we are before, because if you're smelling them in the air, they're volatilizing off the flower. So we're retaining them a little bit better this time. Why? The exact reason? Maybe temps are a little bit more on point in this run than they were with last.
They are. Our temperature is much better control, which is funny because we're getting to the not peak of summer, but we're getting into the summer heat. Not really cooling off at night, and this facility is so old that we do fluctuate with the seasons, which is not ideal. But it's a small fluctuation nonetheless.
Yeah, and every terpene, every ester has a different volatilization temperature, but generally cooler is better, particularly at this phase in ripening and then into your post-harvest process. So I expect the nose on the jar popping these is going to be
that's all that matters,
on point.
Well, that is all I had for room 2. All right, so time for some comment questions, and you guys are really stepping up your question game. I'm not gonna lie, it's something we're noticing that the questions are becoming more in depth. So, have you guys noticed any difference in water movement through the plants with far red? I'm curious how far red cannabis affects stomatal conductance and density.
Okay, that's a 2-part question.
It's a
very in-depth question.
Yeah.
So first off,
yes.
There are textbook answers, and then there are applied, practical, real-world answers.
100%.
So from the textbook side of things, there's a lot of deep dive that you can do into the data to really fully answer that from a textbook perspective on what is the density of the stomata. So how many stomatal apparatuses are there on the leaf under far red and without far red? And what that means is, what is your gas exchange potential?
Totally.
How many sites are there for CO2 to get into the plant for the plant to photosynthesize effectively?
Great.
We're not going to jump into that too much.
Let's hope not.
For this. So I'll answer the first part, which is there a big difference or any difference in irrigation, right?
Water movement,
Yeah. So water movement meaning transpiration.
Yes.
Really. So the short answer is no. So it depends on how you're doing far red. For what we do here for a practical applied dosing of far red, which is 5 minutes end of day.
Okay, okay.
There is no noticeable difference to the cultivator in your water uptake rates. Nutrient, very different.
Yes, agreed.
That's completely separate, but in terms of total volume of irrigation and transpiration rates, they're functionally identical. And the reason being is because the far red that's being delivered is not photoperiodic far red, really. Right? It's coming in after all of the lights have gone off. It's just far red, which drives photosynthesis and CO2 fixation or carbon fixation and O2 assimilation. Very, very small amount.
Yes.
Like negligible amount, especially for that time interval. So no, there really is not a difference in the rate of drinking between the plants with and without the 5 minutes end of day far red. However, there is if you are applying far red during the photoperiod and if that far red is in addition to the full spectrum. Right? So like room 4, for example.
Exactly. I was going to say room 4 has these trials.
Yep. So room 4 has a trial without far red, has a trial with far red 5 minutes end of day, and then has a trial with far red 5 minutes end of day plus photoperiod far red.
Correct.
Given that the E par is matched on all of those tables, so the expanded par, we see the same transpiration rates effectively. There are differences, but to the grower, it's negligible. There are so many other variables in your room that will drive differences in your transpiration rate.
Yes.
Then that will
a much greater
at the plant level.
Yeah, most definitely.
However, if you don't match EPAR and you simply add in far red on top of whatever you're doing, so if I didn't reduce the full spectrum 400 to 700 nanometers
during the day
by that 15%, and I just simply added the full 100% of our far red treatment on it, there would absolutely be an increase in the transpiration rate because we are essentially giving the plants higher light.
It's additive.
And it's additive. We are asking more of that plant, and you will see a higher transpiration. But we are matching the PAR values, the EPAR values across the treatments, so they are functionally identical in terms of their uptake of nutrient water. And then utilization of nutrients, again, totally separate. We need to do a real deep dive into that.
Yeah, that's another deep dive. So does far red drive increased water movement? Short answer, no. Long answer, John just gave it to you guys. So thank goodness he's here because I couldn't have done that. That's all we had for Grow Room Weekly today. Drop us a comment, ask us any questions. We're here to support. And if you're looking to kind of use chromas along with us and follow the recipes we're doing, use code GRW at checkout on Shopify on favenlighting.com and we'll knock 15% off. Let us know what you think. And dude, thanks for tuning in. We love doing this. So thanks, guys.